Mrs. Wally.
Hello, third graders.
What are you doing?
Well, we get to take our masks off.
Why do we get to take our masks off?
Because we're both fully vaccinated.
Yep.
We are more than 6 feet apart.
We measured.
We have windows open and a fan on. And we are filming a TV production. So we get to have our masks off. As long as we stay 6 feet apart, and when we're not filming, our mask is immediately put back on.
Got it.
Which is why you saw us remove it once the screen came on, because we were waiting for us to be on screen.
This is exciting.
And you'll see us put it back on after the affirmation.
So they get to see our faces.
It's so great.
So exciting.
It's so much better.
It is.
So much, even though I'm like, I'm exhausted.
I know.
I'm really happy that we get to see each other's faces.
It was funny, there were other lessons that we filmed like this, and I kept creeping over.
She did, and I'm like, whoa!
Stay back! So what they did
Stay
is
back, Miss Osland.
they put tape here so I know how
we
far
call
I
it
can
her
go.
box.
Stay.
My glasses have a big smudge on them.
Uh-oh.
So while I fix that, let's check in with our zones. How are we feeling today, friends? What zone are you in? What are your emotions doing? What's your body doing? What's your brain doing? Mr. Kevin, how are you feeling?
Well, I'm in a pretty good mood. Mode. I'm in a good mode.
Glad you're in a good mood.
There used to be this guy named Robin Leach, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. And I kind of slipped into that voice there, didn't I?
You channeled him.
It must be the boats that we're looking at today.
Oh, very
It must be.
fancy.
The boats
Rich
are good.
and famous.
All right.
And I don't have to wear this back here.
That is nice.
So, Green,
It's the afternoon filming third graders, and we get a little silly in the afternoon.
That we do.
how about you, teachers?
Well, I'm in the green and blue zone.
Okay.
My brain and my emotions are in the green zone.
Good.
My body's still in the blue zone.
Yeah.
I have physical therapy today, though, for my shoulder.
Oh, that's exciting.
So we'll see how I feel tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll either be in the green zone or in the really deep blue zone.
Deep
One or
blue.
the other.
Oh.
We'll find out. How are you?
I am focused. My body feels good to go in the green zone. Emotionally, I'm in the yellow zone.
Still there?
I'm still in. Yeah, I'm still in. I'm still feeling a little anxious about just unknown things.
Coming
It's
up.
Springtime in education.
So fun.
And while I love the springtime weather, the unknowns of everything is hard.
It's hard. It is.
But
You'll be all right.
we're here.
How's your body?
Good. Good. Rested. Had lunch.
I'm kind of feeling that.
Oh, the post-lunch snooze.
Well, I don't actually feel tired. And maybe I do and I don't realize it.
Yeah.
My body just keeps yawning.
Maybe just take deep breaths.
Sometimes that makes it worse.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then don't do that.
I don't know. Well, I'll get through it. It'll be fine.
Find out.
You
Frantic?
have FBS. Are you afraid to ask?
Yeah. What is that?
Full belly syndrome.
I wasn't quite sure what you were talking about. Oh, friends. Whoa. Wait. Ew.
This is a really good time to remind ourselves of our 3 personal standards.
It sure is. We will always show respect,
make good decisions, and solve problems.
Mr. Kevin.
Everybody take a deep breath.
Maybe some hand breathing would be a good idea.
I think that's a great idea.
The giggles.
You do. Now Miss Wally has the giggles. Okay, let's focus on our hand breathing. Here we go.
Mrs. Wally, it's hand breathing, not hand giggling.
Oh, friend. Did you ever had to giggle so bad you couldn't stop? Okay.
Yes, and I remember I was in middle school one time and I got in big trouble at the
Yes.
dinner table.
At least you were on TV.
I got in big trouble.
Yeah, okay. We're good. I'm good.
Okay.
Okay.
So, another thing that we're doing
Yes.
here in TV Classroom as a sign of respect
Yes.
is honoring our indigenous lands and peoples.
It's so important that we do this every day.
It is. And as we make this more of a habit in our routines that we have here at TV Classroom, we're going to say this statement. And as you start to learn it, I want you to say it with me and think about what do each of the individual words mean and what are the ideas that they represent.
It's changed a little bit
It has.
because we got some feedback,
We did.
which we welcome feedback
Yes.
because when we know better, we do better.
Yes. So we made some changes to make it better.
See if you can figure them out.
Here we go. I'm going to invite you to look outside your window, look at the sky, look at the trees, look at your surroundings. Our physical space stands on the historical and ancestral lands of the Puyallup Tribe of Indians. We acknowledge the Puyallup Tribe of Indians community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. We make this acknowledgement as part of our work to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism and white supremacy. Are there any words that are coming up for you that you think we need to talk about?
Something we've talked about with other grade levels today is elders. I think that some students know what that word means, but others may not.
I think some students may have heard the term respect your elders, right?
But I don't know if they understand what that means.
Yeah. So elders are the people who came before me. So the people who are older than me, my elders.
Yes.
So my parents or my grandparents or
Their
going
parents
back.
going on and on and on. And then the people that are yet to come,
We call those our future generations.
they're not here yet.
They're not here yet.
But
so
we're going to be respectful
if-
of
all of
all of
that.
it.
And continue to learn about the impacts that our elders have had on our history and the potential impacts that we will have on future generations.
That's correct.
So, excellent segue
Right into what we're
our
learning
central
about.
question, which is how did the environment influence the development of Northwest Native American cultures? Should we review some of our big social studies words?
I think we should. Mr. Kevin wants me to move my microphone. Is that better, Mr. Kevin?
Yes, that's much better. Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, so remember, I don't have a graphic for it yet.
That's okay.
That's okay.
We're going to study some big social studies words.
We learned anthropologist. An anthropologist is a scientist who studies humankind.
All about humans, different
Yeah.
kinds of humans who live different places and what they do and why they do it.
Should our action be like a scientist who studies humankind?
Oh, I like it. A scientist who studies
humankind.
Well, I can only do one hand, but humankind.
Yeah. So when we say anthropologist, you say
Anthropologist, a scientist who studies humankind.
We also learned about the Makah tribe. That's an indigenous tribe of Nia Bay here in Washington.
That's correct. And the coast, which is the land next to an ocean.
Spokane. It's another tribe of Indians inhabiting northeastern Washington.
That's correct. And plateau. It's a high level area of land.
Yes.
That's correct.
We have a new
Okay.
word today.
We do.
We do.
What is it?
Reservation.
I know, like, if I'm reserved, I have reservation about something, I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. I was thinking like to reserve a table at a restaurant.
Oh, like a reservation.
I
at
make a
restaurant.
reservation. Yeah.
Like you said, this is going to be mine for this time. Okay.
We are going to be learning about an area of land set aside by the government for Native Americans. So, set of land. This is a plot of land for Native Americans.
I'm wondering if our third graders have any questions about that.
I do.
What are your questions, Miss Oslin?
I'm wondering why we need a reservation. Why do we need an area of land set aside for Native Americans?
Right, why can't we just all live together? Interesting.
The sentence I came up with is the Makah Indian Reservation is on the northwestern tip of Washington. So
It
we
is?
have areas of land here in Washington
That
set
are
aside
set
by the
aside.
government for Native Americans.
Okay. We're going to learn more about that.
We are. We have a new chant.
We do?
Washington Natives Sound Off, adapted by Rachel Hoff.
Hi, Rachel.
You know
I know Rachel. Miss Hoff. I worked with her when I worked in Highland Public Schools.
That's exciting.
She actually was my trainer that taught me all of these school strategies.
Oh,
Yep.
what a fun connection.
Shall
Shall
we
we
start?
sing her chant? Okay.
I don't know, but I've been told
Regions of Washington their tribes did hold,
each tribe lived a different way.
made Washington great to this very day.
Sound off.
Natives
Sound off.
of Washington.
Sound off.
1, 2, 3, 4.
History. The coastal tribes lived along the shore.
The Pacific Ocean gave food galore.
Salmon, seal, and whale they ate.
Their totem poles were really great.
Sound off.
Natives
Sound off.
of Washington.
Sound off.
1, 2, 3, 4.
History. The plateau tribes, they had it tough.
The harsh climate made it really rough.
They walked in search of roots and seeds.
After horses, they moved with greater ease.
Sound off.
Natives
Sound off.
of Washington.
Sound off.
1, 2, 3, 4.
History.
Okay, so we have learned about
The
coastal people and the plateau people.
Now, these people are made up of many different tribes.
Yes.
And I wanted to point that out.
Yes.
Like, there isn't like a coastal tribe. There's many different
Many.
tribes that lived along the coast of Washington. Some right along the edge next to the ocean, and some along the inlets in the Puget Sound and the coast of that area. But we consider all of pretty much the tribes that inhabited land from the bottom part of the mountains, the foothills over the
Yes.
coastal tribes, and the ones who inhabited the lands on the other side foothills over the plateau tribes, because that's basically the plateau area and that's the coastal area.
And we are talking about these large groups of people and not their specific tribes, because the intent of our learning is about the environment.
Right.
And the environment is the same in that region.
Correct. And so we're learning about how that environment, we're trying to make connection as to like why they did what they did and if the environment played a role in that.
Yes.
And how they lived in Washington. And then thinking about how people live now too,
Yes.
right? So let's review and let's actually do some comparing this time.
So comparing is thinking about
How things are similar and different.
Okay.
So we are going to look back at our input chart. We did just the coastal people, and then we did just the plateau people. So now we're going to look at the whole chart, and we're going to talk about what things were similar and what things were different. Now, something I want you to do, and I didn't talk to Ms. Oslin about this, but that's okay. So I want you to get out your journal. Your job is to be taking some notes while we do this today. So you're going to get out your journal. Mr. Kevin, you can go ahead and show my journal up here. And what I want you to do is I want you to make a 3-column note.
yes.
I love 3-column notes. So what I want you to do is make a line across the top, and then you're going to do it in 3 columns. I like this better than a Venn diagram because it gives us more space.
Yes.
So on the left-hand side, you're going to write coastal, people, and you're going to write plateau, people, Mrs. Wally, after lunch, brain fog. Then in the middle, you're going to write similar,
How come similar and not same?
because it doesn't have to be exactly the same. Similar is different than same. Same means it's exactly the same, everything matches up. Similar means they have a lot of things in common, but a few things might be different. So what we're going to be doing is looking at this chart, and on your paper, you're going to be taking notes of the things that were similar and then things that were different. If you write something here for coastal people, then you need to write the thing that was different for plateau people. So like if they, let's say,
What about where
Something-
they lived?
where they lived. So coastal people would be on the coast, plateau people would be on the Columbia Plateau. So you have 2 things here. For the similar, you just write one thing, how it's
Okay.
the same. But if you write something here, you have to write the thing that's different here. Similar, just one thing in the middle. So you're going to be taking notes as we talk.
Love it.
I'm not going to be taking notes because I'm going to be doing this. So
Can I take notes?
you sure can. Here you go, Miss Oslin, and then we can see Miss Oslin. So, Mr. Kevin, could you zoom out? Ooh. We're going to take a look at this. I'm going to move you, Rashid, right there so that we can really see it. And Mr. Kevin, if you don't mind moving Miss Oslin and I over to the other side.
We'll do that, yes.
You just take your time. And I can actually move this over a little bit so that it's not
There you go.
there.
And then I'll move
then
my
you'll
part.
have some space.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it be a little bit more straight. How's that? That's nice.
Okay, reach up and
Okay.
and hit hers over. Ready?
Oh,
Give
I
it a
have to do it
slap.
like this. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Here. Oh yeah.
Okay, my
Nice.
turn.
Okay, now yours. Hang on a second
Oh.
here. Let me get to
I didn't grab it
yours.
right.
Yeah, almost there. Okay, ready?
Yep.
Go. Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah, nice job.
I love doing that. It's so fun. I don't know why it's fun, but it is.
It is fun.
All right. So, what are you noticing, friends? Just take a moment to look at this chart. And I'm going to make sure that line is really clear down the middle. We have this line here. Separating the two. What do you notice? Take 1 minute of think time. What do you notice?
Mrs. Wally must have said 1 minute,
I did.
and I didn't play enough think time music.
Oh,
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay. I probably was still thinking. It's okay. Are we good?
Anytime.
Okay, we can stop now. I was busy looking at the chart thinking.
Yeah.
I was having lots of thoughts. What did you notice, Miss Oslin?
I noticed a major resource for the coastal people was cedar trees, and a major resource for the plateau people was camas root.
Ooh. I noticed that the coastal people used the plants for their clothing, and the plateau people used the animal hide for their clothing.
Oh.
So that's a difference. Something I noticed that was similar is that both groups ate fish, particularly salmon, which I find interesting because one lived along the coast and one was inland with water. So that must mean salmon travel a long way.
I said that what was similar is that they both have longhouses.
They do both have longhouses, but something that's different is the plateau people also had pit houses and then teepees because teepees transported easier. They could transport longhouses, and they had longhouses until they learned from the plains people about teepees. Another thing that's different is that the coastal people pretty much used canoes for transportation because they were on the water. That's how they traveled. But the plateau people used walking and then horses after 1730. Friends, can you think of anything else that you want to write down? I know another difference. While the food source was both salmon, pretty much the main food source for the coastal people came from the water, like fish, ocean mammals, crabs. And the main food source for the plateau people were things like camas roots and seeds and berries.
So like plants.
Plants with some animal if they were able to get a deer or something like that. Where the coastal people, their main source was fish and water life. They both got sick from settlers. And in the 1850s, they both had things happen where they lost their land. And it makes me sad. I want to think more about the land. Like the differences in the land and how that impacted them. What are you thinking?
Well, I was thinking that the plateau people got the idea for pit houses and teepees from the plains people, but the coastal people didn't have as much access to other people.
Right, they were kind of secluded over on the coast. So that the mountainous range has definitely separated these people. And on the coast, they had a lot of more mountains and trees, where the plains people, it's really flat, but that left them exposed to the elements. Where the coastal people had trees and things to be able to use as shelter and kind of shield them from the elements, the plains people were very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Exposed. Even from like maybe neighboring tribes that weren't necessarily friendly, being on the plateau, you were much more exposed to threats in that way as well.
I wonder, so they were physically exposed to the elements by not having as much shade from trees.
Right.
I wonder what that means as far as, like, I know sun damage
Right.
for skin.
Right, because back then they didn't. I wonder what they used for sunscreen. They had to have used something to protect their skins, or maybe they didn't, and maybe cancer was something that happened. They just didn't know why it was. Someone was getting ill and dying. That could have been something too. I'm curious about that. Would you circle that for me?
Yes.
Because I would like to research that more. Something that's similar is they lived together in community with one another. You know what I think is interesting is that both of them, when they had that contact with the settlers, the land didn't impact what happened. The same thing happened to both tribes. They both got ill and they both got their land taken. It didn't matter that it was a different type of land. And it's just a noticing. I don't know that it's necessarily for the chart, but it's interesting that the land impacted so much of their life and how they lived.
Yeah.
But when the settlers came, it didn't impact how they treated them.
You
Which
said
I
something,
find
I apologize, about how they lived together.
Yeah, they lived in groups together, both on the coast and on the plateau. So I don't think that the land impacted that. And they both used resources. Like they used everything they used was resources from the land. They didn't have machines and places back then. They do now. So I'm curious how that, like, if we remember that picture of the person fishing, how that was something that had been manufactured. So I'm curious, what things do they still use from the land? And do they find really useful still? And what things are they finding that maybe modern manufacturing is working better than what they were able to create from the land? Or if that's a thing, I don't know.
So I see in our input chart that we have the salmon fishing net for our plateau people. So then I'm wondering how...
They also use nets.
They did, okay.
They were really big on making sure that the way that they were hunting and capturing was humane to the animals. And they were thankful that the animals provided them nourishment and gave them life.
So a respect of land and creatures.
It's really interesting, isn't it?
Very.
They're very similar in a lot of ways. It was just a matter of what resources they had available that made them different. right? They didn't have as much resource to things like deer and all of these reeds and roots on the coast. So they picked different things. And then they had a need to move on the plateau people. So they needed to be able to pick up and move their homes and have a way to move. The coastal people kind of just stayed on the beaches where they got their food.
So they didn't need
To
a
move,
teepee.
they didn't need a teepee. And they could move their longhouses. And I'm curious if they did or if they kind of stayed stationary. I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting.
Or maybe they built bigger longhouses,
Oh, because they didn't have to take that into consideration.
like how they were going to move it.
Huh.
I have lots of it's that whole thing that once you start
Once you
learning, you
start-
have more questions. So what does that tell us? Did the land impact? How did it?
How?
Well, it definitely impacted what they were able to eat. It impacted what kind of shelter they could have.
Different resources for trading.
It impacted their ability to trade and their resources. The land also impacted that the plateau people got to learn from other groups, so it impacted their knowledge.
I wonder what access to different food, like a different diet, what that did
Like
for
their
them
nutrition.
physically.
Yeah.
Yes.
It impacted their exposure to the elements, for
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
It impacted how they could travel,
Or if they needed to.
right? Impacted what they ate, like you said, the nourishment. But it didn't impact their contact with settlers.
Did not.
Isn't that interesting?
Very. So third graders have learned quite a bit.
So let's look at your notes.
We should start to be able to answer some of these questions.
Let's take a look at Miss Oslin's notes. And you can compare your notes with Miss Oslin's notes. I'm going to just move
can
this
read 'em.
because it's a lot to look at. I'll let Mr. Kevin
Zoom in.
do the magic zoom.
Oh, wrong direction. Woo. Okay. Wow, that's a lot of notes.
It is. She said they lived on the coast. They lived on the Columbia Plateau. Cedar trees, camas roots, plants for clothing, animal hide for clothing. Pit houses and teepees, only longhouses. Canoes for transportation, walking and horses for transportation. She's using shorthand, which is fine because your notes are for you to understand. Water food sources, plant food sources, other than salmon. Illness from settlers. Actually, let's continue doing these ones, then we'll go in the middle. Isolated by the mountains, access to plains people and many other people. Protected from elements by the trees in the mountains, exposure to sunlight and elements. Right? So it was like a positive negative.
Right.
Like you traded one thing for the other almost. They both had longhouses. They both ate fish, salmon in particular. They both had illnesses from settlers and in the 1850s treaties, but the environment didn't impact that on either side. And they lived in large groups. They used resources from the land. They both used nets to fish, and they were respectful of land and its creatures. I think there's a lot of information there about how the natural environment shaped each of these groups of people.
And coming up, that's exciting that Mrs. Wally and I have thought about is thinking about the respect for the land and the creatures
Yes.
and how that has influenced the culture and the stories that they tell and the
Yes.
folk tales that they pass down.
Yes. So important to carry on those traditions and give those stories and lessons to the people of future generations.
Yes, and we're going to get to read them.
I'm really excited.
Yes.
It's going to be great. All right.
Whew.
So, what we think we know about Native American culture and what we want to know about Native American culture. Well, I have a lot more what I want to knows.
Yes. Yes.
Take a moment. We'll give you like 1 minute of think time to go ahead and look back at your T-chart. What did you think you know? Is that still true for you? Or do you need to change your thinking? And what new things do you want to know about Native American culture and the environment and how it impacts it? Go ahead, take 1 minute. So today, what should our friends do?
Our friends are going to think and write or speak or act or create about how the different environments of the coast and plateau regions of Washington impact the different cultures of the Native American tribes that lived here or that do live here.
So we're going to start answering that essential question.
Yes.
We're going to have even more information on our next episode to help you with that. So just starting that.
And we would love for you to send that work to us.
We would.
Mr. Kevin's going to give you 2 ways that you can send us whatever it is you're thinking in whatever way it is you would like to present it.
That's right, third graders. You can send us something via email to tvclassroom@tacoma.k12.wa.us or send us something in the mail to TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.
All right, third graders. Time for our affirmation. I don't have one. Do you have one, Miss Hoslin?
I think it's important for us to remind ourselves as we are being anthropologists, which are scientists who study humankind, that we think about honor our differences, but also recognize our similarities.
Right.
So
Because really, we're a lot more similar than we think.
yes. So I can honor differences and recognize similarities.
Can we say I am able to
I am able to say it,
honor people's differences?
honor people's differences
and our similarities.
and our similarities. I love it. Here we
Okay.
go. Take a deep breath. I am able to honor people's differences and
our
similarities. Excellent job today, third graders. We hope you have a great rest of your day. We look forward to seeing you back here next time in our TV classroom.
See you next time. Bye, friends.
Good day, young aviators. Did you know that we live in an amazing state? Not only is Washington famous for its spectacular scenery, but did you know that Washington State is famous for making airplanes? So today, we will be using our arms' muscular strength to fly around Washington State and see how beautiful it is. All you have to do is put your arms out when the bald eagle takes off from her totem pole and keep them flapping until she makes it back to her totem pole safely. Now, your arms might get a little tired, but that's okay. That's how we build our muscular endurance. Don't stop flapping until you land. Have a great flight.